Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Chaos-Reighn, and I know I've only been doing one video yesterday and today, but I haven't been home. I've been out with family and, catching up, so I figured I'd at least make it a video a day. However, today I'll most likely put my normal 2 a day if possible. But today is going to be a build showcase. This build showcase is of my current project that I'm just having a little bit of fun with. It is, yes, an omniscient stacker, and yes, it is very fun. And there's a little bit something different that I decided to, add to the build to make it even more fun. So let's go right into it. First things first, I'm going to go over the gear and my choices for the gear and everything like that. Then I'll go over my tree, and I can go over what you can expect to pay for this. Now, I will make a disclaimer, this is currently standard only, for several reasons, one of them being that there is a certain item that has still not been reintroduced into the league, and you're not going to be able to acquire this item otherwise. So, that being said, let's go ahead and just quickly do a gear clip. So as you see here, we're using an Arborix. So not only are we using Arborix, we're using a Legacy Perfect Rolled Arborix. We used a whole bunch of tainted scraps and could only get it to 28 quality, but it's whatever. Um, I'll show you why in a second. This is for the 2 arrows at constantly, along with the insane attack speed and the 1 multiplier while you have iron reflexes. This makes it so our barrage just basically one taps anything and everything that it comes in contact with, and it just makes it so much more fun. So in our main links here, our single target, we have elemental damage with attacks, inspiration, faster attack support, divergent, cold damage support. Now we're doing divergent because it converts your fizz to cold, and we want to be 100% converted to cold on barrage. So with this plus the tree, we are 60% converted. We have barrage, just 2020. I do own, this is divergent, sorry, divergent barrage 2020. A anomalous hypothermia with increased chance to freeze enemies which are chilled, which is really good because we're always chilling enemies and always critting. Along with this, we are running Glimpse of the Vow with skills fire additional projectile. I haven't yet gotten my enchant for it. I'm going to. That's going to be one of my next projects, is to go and get all of my helm enchants, and just to kind of show you guys what you can expect in lab. And unfortunately, lab, I believe now, is pretty bad and hard to get your enchants, even though you can still pick and choose. You still only 3 out of a million different skills. So our armor is Legacy Hero's Ire. Now you don't have to use Legacy. I'm using Legacy because I have it and I'm in Standard, so I can use it. Obviously the flat cold isn't even that high rolled. It's a little bit higher than a max rolled, like 40 points, but it's still a lot of damage, especially for barrage. We're mainly using it for the spell suppression and 50 dex because we are still omniscient stacking. We are using a Headhunter with increased attributes, max life, double corruption, with attribute catalyst. Unfortunately, it rolled 5 instead of 6, so that's kind of meh, but still a 668 Headhunter. We are using 1 fractured ring with fractured intelligence with T1 dex rolled on it. We managed to hit a tier 4 chaos res roll and called it a day. And then when we went and did the prefixes, we just basically hit T2 mana and hit unveiled the flat cold flat lightning, which is even more damage for barrage. And of course, non-channeling skills have -7 to mana cost, makes it so our barrage is slightly cheaper, makes it so we can actually spam it a little bit. We are then using obviously the Crystallized Omniscience. I haven't yet anointed this because I haven't picked out what I want for it yet. However, I have an idea of what I'm going to do. Eventually, once I get that, kind of thought about, I will put it on. We are using a Lehupafal with 6/6 Corruption. Now, this is an insane amount of Omniscience. If you can tell, we go from 53 to 75 res right there. Well, 53 to 81 technically, which if you do the math, that's like 400-500 omniscience. It's insane. We are using a double T1 boots with a little bit of light res on it. I made these a while ago and put them on another build, but then I took them off for a new pair. This is cannot be frozen craft with 35 boost speed, T2 life, and the double T1 stat. We have action speed and life regeneration rate, which kind of helps us a little bit with some of the, dot stuff that you have to deal with. We have a um, pair of gloves with freezes spread along with inflicting lightning exposure, for on hit applying 11 light, minus 11 lightning res. So this is basically because our main clear skill is lightning arrow, phantasmal lightning arrow to be exact, so we can hit more enemies. And our links are phantasmal lightning arrow, awaken cold, awaken GMP, awaken daily damage with attacks, awaken divergent inspiration, and divergent hypothermia for the extra cold pin and the fact that it helps us freeze. So this basically means that we have another a little bit of lightning pin. Obviously, it's not, too much. I'm definitely gonna roll over that eventually. I just have been having fun with the build. Now this is a really insane pair of gloves. I actually had a fractured pair of T1 strength gloves that I turned around and hit it with essence. It ended up hitting tier 2 accuracy, which, as you know, on builds you actually need like at least one source of accuracy to make the build like hit and feel like it's hitting everything. Even then, I still only have 9981. In there, we have 21 precision, anomalous hatred, which is increased chill and freeze duration. Divergent Herald of Ice, which isn't even fully leveled yet, but its buff grants another 2% chance to freeze. And then Enlighten, so we can, run it all up. And then on our gloves here, we have Anomalous Dash, Anomalous Second Wind, and Blood Rage. Basically, Blood Rage is just for the attack speed and the frenzy. However, we don't really need it right now. We're just kind of having fun. The dash is the distance. The second wind is the additional cooldown use. So, yeah. In our helm, we have Mark on Hit, Sniper's Mark, then Divergent Grace, and Anomalous Ice Golem. This allows us to summon an Ice Golem on a boss, and then just make sure we have that chance to 100% chance to hit. Also gives us a little bit of crit chance, which goes from, whatever it was to 55% here, and pretty solid amount of damage increase. On top of that, we're just basically deleting everything from, big waves to bosses. So, another thing is, if we go over here and look at our skill, our current barrage is firing 11 projectiles subsequently, and this is without Dying Sun, and our lightning arrow is 12 arrows. And this means that we just output so much DPS that it's actually insane. Unfortunately, because of the balancing of our lightning and cold damages here, we are unable to run Trinity support, but at the same time, we have enough penetration that we can actually just use hypothermia and still get a pretty decent amount of damage overall for it. So let's go ahead and put in a map just so I can showcase to you a little bit of what I'm doing and how it feels. Now, I will say I haven't finished out the flask yet. This is just the same flask that I used for the budget variant of this build. And my tree, I can go over the tree after the map. Just want to kind of showcase this a little bit. And yeah, let's go ahead and get right to it. So the reason that we chose Lightning Arrow is because we are going to be building a new Ice Shot build on our character, which is aptly named God of Ice Shot. I figured I would turn around and make that a, insane Ice Shot build, like the best of the best of my gear all put into one build, and scale it as best as I can to make it just delete all content. So that's something I'm going to be working on pretty soon here, and for now we're just gonna have some fun with this and just kind of showcase a little bit of why we like this whole setup. As you see here, we have a lot of arrows that are firing. So our clear speed is actually insane. We are clearing things off screen, and there's just nothing really that's living. So we can actually turn around and do this, kind of like just delete stuff like this. There we go. Oh yeah, this says vine snare, so I have to just walk up and burst it. Oh, yeah, be careful with those. Alright. As you see, we don't even have to deal with the essences. They just, a tap of barrage and dead. It's insane. I do recommend, if you have the gear that I have, you try and make this work, and just go for speed clearing. Obviously, you can make an MFer if you're playing on PC. I know legacy MFers are just insane. So let's go ahead and put some stuff down just because we can. Boom, 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 boom.
Treasure will make this worth
Cool.
it.
Alright. So, currently we are farming essences still, but essences we are almost out of the sextant modifiers that make them like really strong. Not necessarily really strong, that just make it so we have an additional essence, and then, you know, the remnant of corruption, which is, you know, on average, one additional essence you wouldn't think is huge, but it is pretty huge when you're trying to like actually craft some stuff. So I have actually started on crafting some of my stuff, and just to make some fun omniscience gear to play with, and
For the cowgirl!
pretty stoked on it. I'll be glad to show it to you once it's all done, and I can place it on my, you know, newest build, which is most likely going to be my full decked out ice shot build. But for now, we're just having some fun with Lightning Arrow because Lightning Arrow has insane clear speed.
My mana is gone.
Ah, that's why. Okay. Are you gonna coal? There we go. Alright, and as you see there, there's nothing really to worry about. Here's the map boss, and there goes the map boss. And as you see, our map boss has 57% more monster life along with the rest of the enemies on this map, so it's not as though we just sat there and, you know, he basically went down instantly without any issue on a 57% more, or 57% more life map. I would definitely call that a solid DPS. And then of course, once you get a little bit of buffs because of Headhunter and Inspired Learning, which you'll see in my tree in a second here, you'll be able to just zoom around and have a good time. Now I will say I do have an interesting goal. I'm trying to make it so I can fill out my spell suppression in a gear slot instead of like that lightning res, for example. I want to get like T2, T1 spell suppression in it. So I've been crafting new pairs of boots with ROG. However, right now I am completely out of ROG currency, and I haven't been farming ROG for a while, or should I say, I haven't been farming Expedition for a while. So that being said, we're just blasting through content. Let's go ahead and just delete everything. Alright, cool. And then let's go straight into farming some crazy things. Delete the boss. As you see, we have a bunch of buffs. Alright, so what do we have? So we have a synthesized axe, kind of duty. Synthesized movement speed ring. What is this? Synthesized T4, T5 life. Oof. Alright, so this is definitely nothing worth my time, honestly. So what we'll do is re-roll. Fracture. What fracture are you? Oof. And I think I just take the 2 chaos and the 4 fusings. Call it a day. It's 2C, you know what I mean? You're not losing anything by guaranteeing yourself some chaos in your map. Alright, and that's basically the showcase on how it performs and the damage versus the boss with, you know, 47% more life. If I were to give this a rank, I would say this is probably like a S tier rank, and there's a lot of things that you can do to make it even better, stronger, and I'll go over them as I go over my tree. First things first, let's go over the tree. Our tree is fairly simple. We're definitely using the Lion Eye Fall for the crit multi and attack speed. This gives us an easy access to that crit multi and attack speed. However, once I get a Secrets of Suffering jewel, I only own one currently, or at least I only can find one out of all my stuff. Once I get a second one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually unspec all those nodes, and I'm going to put Secrets of Suffering in like right around here in this little jewel slot, right up here, and you know, start scaling that instead of crit on my tree, and the crit on my tree can be used towards pretty much anything else. So aside from that, we are using the 9 Fall currently. We are taking as much life as we can with extra life nodes. We're taking a little bit of dirty 30s. This helps us get to a fair amount of omniscience. If we go to our character sheet here and we scroll down, we have 1343 omniscience. So we are basically able to kill everything in one shot. And then we scroll down and we have the whole bow wheel. Obviously you don't take the top half of the bow wheel once you once you get Secrets of Suffering going. And then we have down here the accuracy attack speed nodes. We're actually taking this because of our helmet, and I'll go over that in a second. I think I can actually take it off. Let me see. Can I take it off at this point? No, I cannot. So, yeah. Go ahead and put this back on. And then we kind of go down here just to see what we have going. We have the Fizz converted to cold damage. We have the little life nodes here. And we're taking the bow nodes here with more projectile speed. Now you can change this for knock enemies back or increase projectile damage. Well, not that one. Probably the increased damage per chain or, you know, something like that. Probably knockback is your best bet, but yeah. And we're taking suppression here. Obviously, we're taking the suppression up there too. And we're taking the life here. 30-30 is here. And the mark effect and culling on marked enemies, along with point blank. Now, point blank scales extremely well with our bricks, Legacy one especially. The Legacy one giving you a more multiplier. Basically, this is like a 7-link bow. If you think about it this way, it's like an 8-link bow because it has attack and cast speed as well. So it's an 8-link bow that it's like every 16 seconds or every 8 seconds basically you gain an extra point blank multiplier and more attack speed. And then if it's Iron Reflex isn't on, you get Bar Shot, which is another more multiplier. However, Far Shot kind of cancels out point blank a little bit. It's like you have to hit them at the right sweet spot. But honestly, I've played this long enough that I just can figure out what's the sweet spot where I can just delete them all no matter what anyway. And for bosses, you just stand in front of them and delete them. Now for our helmet, this is why we have the extra reses. I will say you don't need that once you get an insane ring with maybe double attributes plus like either a synth percent implicit of some sort, something along those lines. You should be good. However, those are very, very expensive and not easy to come across. I actually happen to own one extra synth ring that I'm going to be crafting for this purpose, but as of now I don't have enough resources to just sit there and throw at it. So if you can see here, it says can be modified while corrupted. This means you can enchant it, you can socket it, you can color it, you can do anything you want while it's corrupted. Then it gives you 38% max life, 33% max mana, 31% max ES. Now these all roll up to 40%. I just kind of kept it where it was because like the max mana and max ES don't really do anything for me. If you look at our ES, we have 130 ES. However, our life is actually really respectable for this build. This is, I believe it says 3,500, sorry, it's a little bit far from my screen, 3,500 HP, which is pretty insane for an ice shot build. Now this means we don't usually die to one-shots, and then if you look here, our stats right now have, let's scroll up, we go up a little bit, alright, so we have 70% physical damage reduction, but that's because Iron Reflex is turned on, and then it'll rotate, and it'll switch right there to 64% chance to evade attacks and 4% damage reduction. This actually is really huge for us because sometimes, when we're zooming in the map, we want to evade, and obviously if we're not zooming, we can just sit there and shoot. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds. And of course, with our increased chance to freeze, even with Lightning Arrow, we freeze pretty much everything we touch, and it's pretty fun, everything just kind of dies. So on top of that, if we scroll down, we have freeze immunity, obviously, and then we have the, where is it, spell suppression chance is at 82%. Now this is why I said I want at least a tier 2 of spell suppression on one piece of gear, whether it be gloves or boots, and that is something I have been actively working towards, but it is not an easy task to accomplish. Now the easiest way you can do this is with ROG. However, I am completely out of ROG's currency, aside from like a lot of smaller stuff, so what I'll probably be doing is running a lot of logbooks and a lot more expeditions and maps. Probably expeditions and maps because honestly speaking, I like logbooks, but logbooks just take a lot of time for meh payout. They do pay out, but I don't know. I think compared to expedition leagues, they've definitely been toned down. So what do I think of this variant of the build? I think that there are a few improvements that can be made. First and foremost, if I get barrage attack speed, that'll make my single target go through the roof. Alternatively, we could get Lightning Arrow hits additional enemies, or Lightning Arrow increased damage, which would be really good for clear. Additional enemies isn't really necessary when you fire 14 projectiles. However, The increased damage would be the base damage and make it so we one-shot. Another thing I can say is we can actually drop hypothermia from our links and instead use chain for even a bigger damage decrease. I would only recommend doing this if you get the enchant. Once you get the enchant, you should be able to just put in chain for even more clear, and then when you juice your maps really well, you'll basically be able to clear screens and screens and screens full of enemies, especially with that more multiplier on your projectile speed. So go ahead and give that a shot if you want to. I'm going to be looking for the enchant, maybe barrage attack speed, just so I can, delete bosses harder. I feel like I do delete bosses, but they're map bosses, and I'm pretty sure in-game bosses are going to be just a little bit more tanky, especially with certain modifiers, so I want to kind of push my damage a little higher first. Other than that, you can make some, minor quality of life improvements. One of the biggest things is you can definitely use Secrets of Suffering in this build. It is not a, matter of should you should. It's for sure going to help you. Secrets of Suffering, just visibly here, is going to save me the 5 notes at the top of my bow tree there. It's going to basically take out that Lion Eye Fall, take out all the attack speed and the crit nodes there. I'll probably supplement attack speed with something else in the tree, or maybe even figure out a cluster, probably a Eye-Eyed Repeater cluster, which will be even more damage for, close range enemies, and 10% attack speed, I believe, or 8% attack speed, which is pretty insane. And get Secrets of Suffering, which will basically give me more elemental damage, and then more crit. So basically put my crit chance to 100% without even having any investment in things, and being able to just delete pretty much everything. And I'm really looking forward to that, honestly. So another thing I will say is I actually didn't know I had one of these, but I do have a base crit Watcher's Eye with a Grace suppression. So the only reason I haven't put it on or anything like that is because I have a lot of stuff. So if I were, for example, I play a lot of Ice Shot. So if I go to Hatred, like this tab isn't even shared. But if I go to Hatred, like this is just the Hatred Watcher's Eyes I have at this tab, and I actively try and buy Hatred Watcher's Eyes every league, especially since they're usually pretty cheap. So well, cheaper than standard, obviously, and I play standard a lot, as you'll see from a lot of my content and guide videos and stuff like that. So that being said, I do have let me see if I can find it for you, because I would definitely recommend this Watcher's Eye if you get it. It is not going to be easy to get because of how good spell suppression is, but oh god, I don't know where it's at. I have so many tabs. It's most likely in a remove only tab, which is going to take me a while to find. But I mean, honestly, I can just kind of scroll through while I talk about it. If you can get your spell suppression chance to 100%, basically you'll make it so most bosses can't one-shot you with certain things. And then of course slam skills, most of those are fizz, or at least a big portion of it is fizz. So you just walk out of the way of the slam skills. Obviously those little shaper balls will definitely just delete you, so do not try and tank those. I'm not a tanky character, I'm still a bow build. I'm not running Mage Blood, I'm running Headhunter for a reason. This is basically my mapper, and I'm making it to zoom as fast as possible. One thing I will note is that I am using a pretty good Legacy Flask with increased effect, reduced duration, but it does have the use when it's full, and it's a really good Legacy Flask. We are using a attack speed increased effect flask here, so that is another thing you can probably look for. And then we have a crit chance increased duration diamond flask here. Obviously, that I actually think I rolled the increased duration purposely so it would last a little longer, but honestly, you can probably just put increased effect there. And then we have a Dying Sun here with the 25% increased area effect. Legacy rolls too. This is obvious, we just want more projectiles, and then the Corrupted Blood Bleeding Flask, so. Let's go. Now, one thing I will say is the reason we chose Phasing Flask is because we want to be able to zoom through enemies, especially on a super juiced map. You can instead find phasing other ways, and maybe even like a jewel, so you can get phasing on kill or something. Something like that would be just fine. And instead of doing, something along those lines, you could maybe do Bottled Faith, but honestly speaking, in my experience, I don't really find myself using Bottled Faith all that much, because like on bosses, they usually die before Bottled Faith matters, and I don't even have Bottled Faith, and you saw how fast that last map boss died, so yeah. Other than that, what I'll say is, if you really want to play this build in standard, you don't really need to get the full, legacy artworks like this, legacy hierarchies. I just have them because I play a lot of bow builds, so I collect them. The only thing you'll really need to do is get a decent bow, a regular legacy, a regular hero's hire that is, and a glimpse of the chaos with Fire's additional projectile. Now, on console, this might be a problem, because on console, I believe there aren't very many active people on the market who have them up for sale, and when they were available in League, I sat there and I bought as many as possible to take to standard so I can play with them. And this is actually the first time I've had a chance to play with it, and I felt what better chance to play with it than when you can supplement all the reductions and reses for the with the crystallized omniscience, and just be able to blow content away and have some fun with it. So just a food for thought, I guess. If you want to run this build on console, it might be a little hard. If you have it, great. On PC, I mean, yes, you definitely need to look for the crystallized omniscience. Sorry, the glimpse of the vow. I don't think it's going to be that hard to find, because PC has like 100 times the market that we have. But yeah, best of luck. Well, I can't find that Watcher's Eye to show you, but there is a mod that that reads Grace spell suppression goes up to like 16%, I think, which is absolutely insane. If you get this Watcher's Eye with Hatred base crit, this is probably one of your best in slots, at least until you can get like a double damage with the same, or you can get suppression on boots and something like that. However, if you do end up getting suppression on your Watcher's Eye, what you can do is you can instead get stats, like triple stats on your boots, or triple stats on your gloves, not worry about suppression on either one of these pieces, and be suppression capped, and still be able to just sit there and, blow away all content with even more penetration. Obviously, the more penetration you get, the better off it's going to be, especially against maps that have increased LE res, and bosses that have a lot of, elemental resistance to begin with. You'll be able to do even more damage to them. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this build showcase / little bit of a guide video on how to build it. I understand that this is not exactly a cheap build to build, so I'm not going to expect people to just be like, able to afford this or anything like that. I will say that if you are able to afford this, and or if you can make it work, I do recommend it. It's so fun. As you saw, I just was blowing away content, just deleting packs and packs and packs. And I could obviously be deleting more if I lowered my damage even more on my clear, but as of now, I'm just having a blast doing whatever I can in this whole thing. But yeah, as always, everybody, take it easy and have a good one.